What is up, guys? It's your boy GRC. We're coming at you live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. Every single day, I said. You heard it. You heard it. Every single day, 11 a.m. Eastern with Sam STOLT, Bullish Ox. We're getting busy today, guys. We got PulseBitcoin. I hope I didn't say that wrong right off the jump. PLSD came out. One of the greatest, most profitable free airdrops I've ever gotten in my life, certainly. Sam, I think that's important to note. Like, that was one of the most profitable airdrops I had nothing to do with that I just sold. And I'm not saying at the time I had no idea what was going on, but I published it and all. So, I mean, that's something big to say. Lots of people got $600, $700, $800, $1,000 at a time. That's truthfully rough for a lot of people. I mean, come on. A lot of people could have used that money at the time. I certainly could, or whatever. But I think that at a minimum is really important to note. We're talking about PulseBitcoin today, though. So let's not get it twisted. Okay. I'm just going to let Pep tell all the details, but this is time sensitive information. Okay. Very time sensitive. Why? Because we're talking about, I don't want to say what time, because I think it was like either 5 minutes ago or an hour from now. There is the listing of PulseBitcoin. I'm not going to mess this up any longer. So let's get Pep. Let's get Sam. Let's talk crypto, PulseBitcoin, the communities in the chat. There's 82 in here. Guys, Crypto in the Morning live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. We want you to share this. Smash the like. DeFi Proof, the greatest DeFi rapper in history.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking no blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some hedron, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim ready sent me to show you the way. Crypto in the morning, 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 crypto in the morning.
What's up? Good morning. I'm looking forward to talking to Pepe. Last time we had this conversation, if you guys weren't following along at that point, that was a very good conversation. Somebody who pays attention to the details and takes the time to do their own research, like PulseBitcoin and PLSD. I mean, together that is like a yarn ball.
Well, Hedron Icosa situation, if you ask me. It's a little ecosystem.
It's all like tied up, and you need to have somebody who understands the nuances to be able to spread that and take that yarn out of the knots and all this. Because when you first look at it, you're like, oh my God, this is so complex. Great example, Icosa and Hedron, right? And do you have this? I say hi to Real Shaka Pusha. What's good?
The chat is riddled with PLSD super fans. Guys, this is good vibes right now. Let's get Pepe on here ASAP. Sam, hey, we're going to introduce Pepe. So, because I know a lot of you guys are new, and I know a lot of you guys have no idea. We have to remember that while we're talking, guys. We want to start first 10, 15 minutes, get some of these basics knocked out. And then we can talk we can slap ass and smack knees, like we say. Okay, so let's bring my man Pepe on. Hold on one sec. Where's my transition button? I lost it, bro.
Pepe, yeah. Dabbing there, dabbing everywhere. How you doing, sir?
Oh, we're having a ball. Today's our day. It's our price discovery day. So we've earned this moment. This is our moment.
What do you mean by price discovery day?
So Pulse Dogecoin came out April 20th. And almost right off the bat, we had heard that there was going to be some sort of yield mechanic associated with this meme token. And then we found out about the scarcity and the rarity. Well, Pulse Dogecoin now has a supply of about 3 million. 3 million have been burned. So we've got this ultra scarce meme token that solves all the problems associated with meme tokens. And then October 20th, 6 months later, we launched ASIC token, which is a virtual mining token, and the reward is paid out in PulseBitcoin. So it's a 30-day lockup period, and the yield is paid at 7.5%. 30 days locked up, 7.5% is a 90% APY up until the first halving. So we're sitting here going, this is just gorgeous. And whatever the ROI turns out to be on PulseBitcoin, it's complete bonus.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the depth. Can we start by introducing Pep?
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll bring it back to the beginning.
Yeah, let's bring it back real quick. That was good though.
Yeah. So
let's introduce Pep. Who are you? How are you involved in this? What is going on here? And where did this all originate? I know we're all from the Hex Ethereum community, right? Let's be honest. You were sniping Ethereum, I'm sure. And you got involved through that with the Hex, and we have these communities that are building from it. Kind of explain like how you came into this situation and in crypto as an investor, and then what as a baseline is like going on with PLSD, PulseBitcoin, A6 mining.
All right, just high level, been an investor for 5 decades or more. I've got some tread worn off of my tires here, but legacy investor. I think Sam and I are both into Tesla. I got into Tesla in 2017 in the 60s when my Apple CEO decided not to give Elon Musk a meeting when Elon wanted to dump Tesla for $55 million, and Timmy Apple said, nah. So I said, this guy, I can't take him anymore. I believe in strong leadership, and went all in with Elon. And then in September of 2020, I was coming off of just the S&P 500 inclusion event. We ran up to $900, and I'm sitting there just going, oh, I'm the world's greatest investor. And my lady says, well, what do you think Tesla's going to do next year? And she was already into Ethereum and Bitcoin and a little bit of Cardano.
Your lady was absolutely locked in.
Yeah, she's from Brazil, so she was sending her family, Bitcoin down there because I guess Western Union charged like $15 here, $25 down there, and then the banditos would put a knife to her brother's throat, saying they were going to slit his throat if he didn't give him half. So in third world countries, crypto is a lifesaver. And so I got into Bitcoin, bought in at 20, sold at 44, got in at Cardano at 68, sold at 213, and I ran across Richard Hart, strong leadership. So I'm like, oh, there's my guy. Foul mouth though he was just spitting truth. So my model for investing is simply to increase education, which leads to increased conviction level, which leads to increased allocation, which inevitably leads to financial freedom. So that's my model. And I didn't know a whole lot about crypto, so I had to learn the crypto market cycle theory. So I began investing in Hex in April of 20, sat in a Hex chat for over a year, and had a heart attack last October. My lady and I were walking into the Stones concert, straight down, blood clots from the vax. So they're never going to jab me again. And, this PulseX thing kept on dragging, and all of a sudden a free claim ends up in a few of our wallets. And I'm like, well, what the hell is this? My lady is like, dump it. Because it was like $1.50 at the time. We had hundreds of them. So, I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's something going on here. A meme token. I don't want to invest in a meme token, but why is it $1.50? So I took a look around, went into the Telegram chat, and who did I see? But I saw Ryan Lopez, who is a Hexagon of note, I saw
The goat.
Steve.
Ryan's the goat.
He is just
He's the man.
unbelievable.
He's the man.
When we have our Pulse Bitcoin Island, he is going to be the master of fun. And
he's just in Brazil down there, just
he's
spreading love and just being wealthy.
So I saw him, Stephen Brocker, another Hexagon of note, Timmy Benjamin, and I'm like, why are these guys in this asset? And then I came across Gunther, the accountant, and I'm like, wait a minute, there really is something going on. So these guys sort of were hex sharks. I think they were all sharks, whales in Hedron. And then they took their free claim and then they started buying thousands of tokens. In fact, they were the top wallet holders in Pulse Dogecoin, and talked to each one of them. And they were all like, hey, all the murder hornets that are dumping on our heads in Hedron and in Hex, we're not going to allow that to happen. We're not going to dump early. We believe this is a multi-billion-dollar investment for us. So I'm sitting there going, okay, if the whales are swimming that way, I want to swim with them, because I was dumped on in Hex as well, and Hedron relentlessly.
God Wicks, we call him.
Yeah. And so after talking with those guys and finding out what their long-term plans were, I said, this is really an investment that requires some serious research. Long story short, I asked them, I'm like, well, hey, how come you don't have a voice chat? And 2 minutes later, they put it up. And I've been sitting in there ever since. So I sort of go in there every day, help the breadcrumbers and the larger investors figure this trustless, synergistic, multi-token ROI yield mining ecosystem out, because it's brilliant. Even though Hex Info, our founder, doesn't quite have the reputation of an Alex or a dip catcher, he is every bit their measure.
Well, tell him to go on the show right away.
Yeah, well, he still has another token to come out. So he has promised me that he will come on shows once he launches Pulse Litecoin.
It helps because that's why I like Jacob. That's why I like the Coast guys. That's why I like Alex from Hedron. It's like they came on here and they talked to me, and then I could trust them because I could go back and forth with them for like an hour, and that helps a lot when understanding someone.
Yeah. So what did I do in terms of crypto to figure this whole thing out? Well, to me, there's 4 main criteria. And I'm not going to invest in anything where I can't check each one of these boxes off. The first is, what's the community doing? Are they buying, holding, staking, responsibly selling, or not? Right. Second thing is, what are the pumpamentals? What is the product market fit, as El Jefe tends to call it? And it's got to have that. Third thing is, what's the track record of the founder? And finally, and probably the most important thing, is what's the timing? Are you getting in early? I mean, we're so early in Pulse Bitcoin right now, we don't even have price discovery yet. That's how early this asset is. And you remember the lady that dumped, 84 million hex just the other day? She did nothing right. Didn't claim her Hedron.
How do we know she was a lady?
Someone on Twitter.
Oh, it's like somebody that.
Yeah, someone doxed her out. But she wasn't even a top 1,000 wallet holder, but she put $9,700 in early, came out of it with 2.3 milli. And the only thing she did right was get in early. Everything else was a mistake. She sold at the bottom.
I disagree. I mean, an ROI like that, maybe 1 out of 10,000 people ever it will see in any product whatsoever. And most definitely, most people will not find a liquid sell like that, especially when they find themselves, staked at a lot of different times. Like, there was a fat amount of liquidity at the time, and she sank 25% of it. So she took 25% of that liquidity pool in one sell. And to be honest, the liquidity pools never looked the same since.
Well, she ate $500,000 in slippage to get out of her position.
Yeah, no, she definitely could have sold out extremely more beneficial for herself. But as far as getting a bad deal, I mean, she went from $7,600 to 2.5 million. And I mean, that's what's on the spreadsheet.
I think what Pepe's means just is for like, yes, I agree with you, Jason.
I'm sorry if I'm poking into that too much.
No,
That's right. It's all about timing, being early. If you get in early, before the herd shows up, you can make it. So those are sort of the 4 criteria. This multi-token ecosystem checks all those boxes, much like Pulse and PulseX. We're in there pre-launch. How do you get better than that?
Correct. Well, no, that's 100% correct. But I do want to know, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. If the liquidity of that asset before the price starts going up really densens up to a point where, if people are sharking liquidity in there right away, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, I do not see that price moving much, but I see lots of people earning money on fees. So that's kind of something that I, as a user, would look at as I kind of stared at it, right? Like I'd look less at the price discovery and more at what's going on with the US dollar within the pools. And that's just personal. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about that, because that's what I like to talk about. So like I always end up going there. But Sam, I would love, if you have any questions, and anyone in the chat, please, if you have a question, just drop it below. We had to introduce Pep. I know a lot of you guys know Pep, but a lot of you guys also don't know Pep. So that would be why we introduced him.
Great. It's always an interesting story here. There's a second time kind of, but you pick up different pieces along there, which gives you more context into somebody and how they think and that kind of thing. So interesting sharing your 4 criteria around like evaluation of a project, whether the community, the fundamentals of the actual thing, like how does it actually fucking work, the track record of like the people involved and the timing, like where are you in that cycle of like, right, I got out of Tesla because it's right. I was like, okay, cool. Got this big run up. I knew I was there before everybody else. We saw like, the 10X in 18-month period of time, like cool, peace guys. Like you're going to get another 10X over the next 10 years. But I think I can do better than that in a shorter period of time by going into crypto. But there's probably a bunch of people here who don't know about ASICs and PulseBitcoin and all this. Can you do give it a broad understanding of this, please?
All right. So here's where we sit today. So for the past 30 days, you've been able to take your Pulse Dogecoin and transform it at a rate of 5 ASIC per Pulse Dogecoin. And that's going to continue until December 19th, another 30 days. And then once you get your ASIC virtual miner tokens, you can then put them into the salt mines. First, you outfit them with a sharp pickaxe, you outfit them with a sharp shovel, give them a canteen full of water, fill their belly up with food, and send them into the salt mines, because 30 days is the lockup period. And so today, that lockup period for the ASIC ends. So when we end our mine today, we're going to get our ASIC back in our wallets and our Pulse Bitcoin. And it's a beautiful thing, because the Pulse Bitcoin that you get is yielded at 7.5% of the ASIC that you've put into the mines. So if you put in 100 ASIC, you would get 7.5 Pulse Bitcoin out after 30 days. Now, that's path 1. Path 2 is you could buy ASIC tokens on the open market. I prefer to use limit orders on matcha.xyz, or you could go to 1inch if you're outside the US and do a limit order, or you can go to Uniswap where you can't use a limit order. You have to use a market order, but you can get ASICs that way, put them into the salt mines and begin mining, perpetually printing money for 30-day increments. And then there's a third path where we have these NFTs called ATMs, ASIC token miners. And ASIC token miners are valued at $1 per ASIC, and they're allowed to be bought up until tomorrow, about noon. And then after that, you can redeem them for ASIC tokens. So what's been going on here? Well, it's a trader's dream, because we kind of have this price peg of an ASIC for $1, yet on Uniswap ASIC's been anywhere from like $1.10 up to $1.90. And then you've got Pulse Doge, which was pegged at that 5-for-1 ratio with ASIC. And the first peg is being pulled tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. So no more ATMs, but those ATMs can be converted tomorrow after 12:30 for ASIC tokens, and then you can put them into the salt mines, or you can sell that NFT on OpenSea for whatever value you can get, or you can push them out into the future, into another halvening period where there's a multiplier effect. Like we're in multiplier, or we're in halvening period 0 right now. When it clicks over to halvening period 1, your ASIC tokens are doubled. Halvening period 2, your ASIC tokens are tripled. So the multiplier goes up by 1, but your Pulse Bitcoin of mining power gets cut in half every halvening. So there's some game theory going on here.
The ASIC, this is a lot to unpack here. So the ASIC tokens, you're kind of having like a stock split. Is that what you just said? So you're getting a doubling in terms of the ASIC tokens at
so if you're holding the ASIC NFT, which is called an ATM, ASIC token miner, you can hold on to them. And let's say you bought 100 ASIC in that NFT and ASIC token miners, you can hold on to them through the 33rd halvening period, which is going to be in about 16 years, plus or minus. So you could sell it on OpenSea, or you can then redeem it at any point after tomorrow for whatever the ATM bonus multiplier rate is. Right now, the bonus multiplier is just 1. But in halvening period 1, the multiplier will be 2, and then 3, and then 4, and so on. But the problem is with that strategy is that the halvening event halves the Pulse Bitcoin yield that you get. So it goes from 7.5% to 3.75%. And then
so if somebody has the ATM NFT, they can exchange that for 1 ASIC token today. In a year from today, or whenever that is, there's a halvening where now if they still hold that NFT, they get 2 ASIC tokens, but right, the rate of issuance of Pulse Bitcoin drops from 7.5 to 3.75.
Right. Correct. In halvening period 1. But keep in mind, this ATM pathway ends tomorrow at 12:30. So no more mining of, or no more creating ASIC tokens, unless you were to do the 5-for-1 swap with your Pulse Dogecoin. That's going to continue for 30 more days, where you can transform your Pulse Doge, 5 ASIC per Pulse Doge. And then after that, 60 days after the launch of Pulse Bitcoin, no more ASIC will ever be in a world. That's it. Now, you'll have to buy it on the open market if you want some. So that's very price performative. We think there's going to be a buying frenzy for it, frankly, because the yield is just so delicious. Now, here's the play, Sam. Let's say you're holding an ATM, and 6 months from now, we're in halvening period 1, and Pulse Litecoin gets launched. And that means Pulse Bitcoin's yield is going to go down by half, but Pulse Litecoin is launching, where the full economic energy of your ASICs can prevail, can be put into the salt mines, so to speak. And you get doubled on your number of ASICs. So that's just one sort of play. Here's another.
So describe that. I know it's early and it's not out yet.
When does this happen, by the way?
The Pulse Lightning, and just describe like what that is. Before you get into that, there's something that I wanted to mention real quick about the way the yield is generated in that token amount versus like a dollar amount, right? Because you have the yield in Bitcoin Pulse is launched, or is 7.5% of the total amount of tokens, not of like the dollar value of that. So I just thought that was interesting because I was like thinking about that. The price is going to fluctuate over time, which would yield a different amount of coins. But if you wanted to increase your coin count, right, which is something that's very common in the crypto space, you're actually increasing the coin count. It's like off the base coin count, not off the USD value, which can be arbitrarily high or low over time. But Pulse Lightning, you're about to get into it.
Well, Pulse Litecoin. So Pulse Litecoin will also be a token that you can apply your ASIC miners into a mining instance and get rewarded in Pulse Litecoin. There has been an oblique sort of hint from the founder that it may also be a yield token for PulseBitcoin, though we don't have any information on that. So all we can go on is that you'll be able to take your stack of ASICs once they come out of the mine that you've been mining for PulseBitcoin and divert a portion of your stack for Pulse Litecoin. And so why would you do that? Well, you would do it because you're going to start out at whatever the maximum yield in Pulse Litecoin is. And over time, that's always going to have likely a higher yield than Pulse Bitcoin because Pulse Bitcoin was launched before. So the halvening periods would knock that down a little bit over time.
Right, remember when Hedron came out and ICOSA wasn't a concern, it wasn't in anybody's minds. And I was in also this neighborhood of what's the point of Hedron? I would just dump that. There's no point in actually holding that coin because you're just getting it for free. You can't earn any yield. Cool. Like there's other things that I would rather put my money into than that. And then ICOSA comes out, right? So what's the point in holding Bitcoin Pulse? Why isn't it just a dumper token that people like? Why would you hold Bitcoin Pulse?
Well, if you take a look at Pulse Bitcoin, it is the ultimate store of value. It is a virtual representation of Bitcoin. The ASIC is a virtual representation of the ASIC miners, the Chinese mining rigs that cost you $15,000. And so we virtualized that exact process, and we're not choking Mother Nature out, right? We're not performing proof of work. It's just proof of stake. That's all it is. And there are no negative externalities associated with Pulse Bitcoin. So the halvening periods, though they won't be 4 years, we expect them to be every bit as price performative as the halvening event for Bitcoin, which happens every 4 years or 210,000 blocks, right? Because the rate at which you can earn Pulse Bitcoin will be halved, just like with Bitcoin, that's halved. And every time that happens, that kicks off the bull market.
But when you see the better price performance with an ASIC, because that's going to actually do something, where Bitcoin is just going to be like, okay, cool, I got yield, let me dump that and get something else. Because I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not understanding why anybody would want to hold Pulse Bitcoin versus like, okay, 30 days later, I get my yield. Okay, I get whatever that comes out to be. Let me dump that shit. I'll buy more ASICs. Like, I don't see why somebody would want to hold the Pulse Bitcoin.
Okay, so let's
one point before you finish that is, Sam, sometimes due to securities laws, you can't directly say that there's going to be specific staking if it's not out yet. And I think sometimes they kind of hint to it, like there is going to be yield on the other side of this in some sort of staking way. But to know directly, maybe at this point, it's not like 100% certain, but these are all hexagons, so they're very familiar with this staking kind of stuff. But that's just my thought.
Yeah. So, Sam, take a look at it this way. There's going to be plenty of buy pressure on Pulse Bitcoin. Why? It's so scarce. Likely today, when it comes out, total supply will be somewhere around 1.2 to 1.5 million. That's it. And there's plenty of people that want to buy it. Now, let's say it comes out at $10. There's going to be plenty of people that will want to sell that for $10. But if it comes out at $1 and it takes me 13.33 ASIC to get one Pulse Bitcoin, why wouldn't I buy the living hell out of that? Of course I would. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So you just have to understand what's going on. Now, where did I come up with 13.33? We know the yield's 7.5%. So you take one ASIC, multiply it by 0.075. and it comes out to 13.33. So we know for a 30-day period, it takes 13.33 ASIC mining to get one Pulse Bitcoin. So if Pulse Bitcoin comes out double dog dirt cheap, we're all loading up. Likewise, you can sit there and say, well, there's 5 ASIC per Pulse Dogecoin. So if we were to divide 13.33 by 5, it comes out to 2.66. So using Elon's approach to first principles thinking, what do we know to be absolutely true? We know that 2.66 Pulse Dogecoin equals 1 Pulse Bitcoin. We know that 13.33 ASIC equal 1 Pulse Bitcoin. Now, they're all deflationary tokens. They're all extremely scarce. And assuming that the herd shows up, which it no doubt will, because green candles are coming our way for sure. What happens when you have, according to the law of supply and demand, right, a decreased supply with increasing demand?
So let's run through those numbers because we went through them very quickly and we probably just lost 77% of people here. Okay, so we'll just be honest, right? Like most people probably didn't grasp that. So the yield on the ASIC is 7.5%. If you take
Correct.
the inverse of that, so 1 divided by 0.75, it gives you the 13.33, right? So you're saying if I stake 13.33333, etc., ASIC, I get 1 Pulse Bitcoin. The bag on the left-hand side of the 13.3333, how much is ASIC selling for? You said $1.10-ish?
$1.10 to $1.20, something like that.
Right, so times a 1.15. So it'd be $15-ish, roughly, $15.30, roughly. And is that kind of the essence of what people are thinking? Why would the Pulse Bitcoin stay at that price though? Like,
well, I don't think it will, nor do I necessarily think it will come out at that price. It should come out at that price. It likely won't come out at that price because if it did, right? I mean, today, likely the founder HexInfo is going to set up the first liquidity pool and he's going to dictate price. Much like our age, he loves his exes. And so it's in his best interest to come out low. So let's just say it comes out at $1. If it comes out at $1, there will be a massive number of buyers. Massive. Because if you had 1 ASIC, it would take you about a year to get 1 Pulse Bitcoin. Or if you wanted to do it in a month, it would take you 13.33. So the opportunity is obvious. As a store of value, Pulse Bitcoin will go through the roof, no doubt due to the halvening events.
But when it comes to going through the roof, like you have to have people actually buying it, right? Like you can't, just because the numbers are pinched off. I could have 180 pieces of turd and I could sell one to Sam for $1. And that doesn't necessarily mean the rest of them are worth $1, right? So there is like real community, like understanding and support that has to be here. Like just because the numbers, and we've learned this from all these derivative products, they come out and they try to play with the digits more than playing with the liquidity pool, right? And what you said about HexInfo is going to be the whole test for me watching him is I'm going to look directly at what he's doing with those pools because I know what people do when they're trying to get, there's strategies to it, right? And how am I supposed to know that the strategy that HexInfo has could be similar to the one that Richard used? Yeah, you could say that's probably a good hunch, but I don't know this guy, nor do I even know where or who or what he looks like. I think he's like 3 different guys all the time. And I'm not saying that that's bad on him. It's just I don't know the guy. Like a lot of this has to do with trust. And that's what I think is important to remember. Like just because the numbers are pinched, like you need users to come in and move on it, even if there's a ratio there, Sam.
That's what I was going to bring up. And like there's the piece. Like there's plenty of things that say, and I'm just going to be the devil's advocate. There's plenty of things that say that they're store of value, right? Like people in fucking Hex think that's a store of value. People in Bitcoin think that's a store of value. People in 1,000 other tokens think that's a store of value. Why would demand increase? Like what's the play to increase?
Let's take a look at DeFi. What makes DeFi special? Because we are the embodiment of DeFi. immutable code, audited by Certec, no admin keys. All right. Beautiful, elegant code. You can read it. If you know how to read code, you can read it. I mean, it is crisp and just wonderful. And so far, there have been no bugs in any of his work.
Which is a good state. That's a good.
Yeah, you can't say that about everyone's stuff. That's for darn
And
sure.
say it about everyone. And so far, all of his pumpamentals have worked out exactly like he sort of predicted that they most likely would. But if you're taking a look at PulseBitcoin, the buy pressure on that is enormous because we have almost 20,000 people in our community that have enjoyed Pulse Dogecoin, and we're up over 600% right now in this brutal, bloody bear market. And what's everyone else doing? I mean, there may be some outliers out there. We're certainly one of them. And we're up 600% on a meme token. Now, here's a token that has brand name recognition. Look at it this way. Pulsechain's not out yet, but when it will eventually be launched, Pulse will be a household word in crypto, the Pulsechain. Now, according to Google Trends, the most searched for crypto is Dogecoin. We've got that in our name. The second most searched for name is Bitcoin. The third, Ethereum. Fourth, SHIB. Go to Google Trends, you'll see it. You can pull up the list. So we've got Pulse Dogecoin with the recognition. We will be the Dogecoin on the Pulse chain. We've got Pulse Bitcoin. We will be the Bitcoin on Pulse chain. And we'll have Pulse Litecoin, which we will be Litecoin on the Pulse chain. So when you look at that recognition, buyers are going to come in after they're finished buying Pulse and PulseX and PHEX and all that stuff and say, well, gee, what else can I buy? Oh, we've got this thing called mining. So, you know, if the one thing I know about poor people is they tend to buy assets that are ROI only. Normally it's a house. They buy a house and they pray someone pays them more for it down the road. Smart investors, some would even say rich investors, would buy an asset that has ROI and yield. Well, wealthy have an opportunity to buy ROI, yield, and mining. And this is a synergistic ecosystem unlike any other. And I think the nearest thing to it is, you're right, what Alex has come up with ICOSA and Hedron. And that seems to me to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, it has done well, and they both have been about, in outliers terms, about similar, right? Like similar in the effectiveness, different kind of approach. Like I think the HSI tokenized kind of situation is that's their approach on that, and I think there's some future there with those kind of technologies too. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, you know, this is a brutal bear market, and you know, I just want everyone to be safe, of course. I don't know the rates on any of these things. Like haven't locked that into my brain yet, but I have till tomorrow, right, to pay attention to this?
Well, today at noon, Pulse Bitcoin has price discovery.
That means it's on the market?
It's going to be on the market at noon. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, that's when your ATMs, NFT is eligible to be redeemed or not. All right. So, Sam, you love creative trades. How about this trade? How about you've got your ASIC tokens coming out of the first 30-day mint phase today, right? And the price is $1.20. You sell for USDC at $1.20, then buy the ATM for $1. Pocket the 20%. You've just enhanced your bag by 20%. And tomorrow you redeem and put them into the salt mines. Now, the question is, will there be enough liquidity to do that? Will the price stay at about $1.20? Who knows? But there's arbitrage all over here.
Those are exactly the types of things that I do find very interesting. Let's dive into that one a little bit more detail, because I think that a lot of people, whenever I do videos like that, people really seem to enjoy those. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper, right? In terms of the current price, maybe it's $1.20 for the ASIC, which 30 days is coming, but you're already in the project. This is for somebody who's already in the project, the we just talked about.
Right. Or someone, it depends what your cost is on a 5-for-1 transformation swap from Pulse Dogecoin, right? But assuming that that's over $1, like what's the price of Pulse Dogecoin right now?
I'll pull it up. Let's see here. PLSD here is
It's 588.
588.
Yeah. So that's basically, yeah. And the market price is $1.15 right now. So you could have a little mini arbitrage, but here's how to take a look at it. Pulse Bitcoin is the thing that everyone's going to be getting today. That's going to be like PulseX when Pulsechain launches. Why? Because everyone's like sacrificed for PulseX. What is the shiny new that they don't have? Pulse. So people likely will be swapping their Pulse Bitcoin out for ASICs, just like they're going to be swapping their Pulse X out for Pulse. They want what they don't have. And you can never have enough miners. You just can't. So you can sit there and say, okay, if Pulse Bitcoin comes out at $10, yeah, I would shave a portion of my bag off. And I would through the ATM, which what can I do? I can get them for $1. That's beautiful.
I'm looking up ASIC, right? That's correct. The correct token symbol ticker. Okay, that's interesting. There's a lot of different plays going on here, and I could see how you would find this fascinating. I enjoy these conversations, but I haven't tiptoed in yet.
Me and Sam are afraid, like when me and Sam don't understand the numbers, like from like 40, 50, 60, 100 days out, like it is hard to like get involved. It's less because I realize that the opportunity is going to be there, and it's more because I'm unfamiliar with the arbitrage, not with the numbers between, like, it's all about pattern recognition when you're doing some sort of trade. And so when you're staring, like Hedron and Icosa and Hex, like if there's any crazy ratio off that, like I know that like the back of my hand. And that's just me, because that's just what I was involved in at the time, right? Like, and I watched the chart all the way from day one to now. So, but just want people to know that's really where a lot of the, if you have been paying attention really sharp, like if you've been doing your homework on this, like I clearly have not, you could probably do well on this. And I promise you, you're going to do better than me. Because I don't understand these numbers. And if you do, don't think, oh, I'm not smart, I don't know these numbers. You do. You do know those numbers. You've been paying attention and you've been doing your homework. And that's where a lot of these arbitrage opportunities come from. It's more the understanding. And that's why I think it's cool to have these kind of discussions.
And granted, these are plays. I mean, they're kind of sexy and all that, but let's get back to the foundation. Let's get to the bottom of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid is you buy these ASIC tokens, put them into the salt mines, and it produces Pulse Bitcoin. Today, we find out what price discovery is for Pulse Bitcoin in 13 minutes. You know, maybe it'll come out by then. And so we as a community, we've been dying here. Everyone goes, oh, I'm aging in dog years. No, you're aging in crypto years. These past 30 days have been hell. Hell.
Jesus, I've turned into a 40-year-old man, and I'm a 28-year-old man really since FTX really got off his rocker.
Well, I would like to know, Pepe, because you've been paying attention to this, and this is why I like talking to people who are like deeply involved and or passionate and interested in a topic, because they have nuance and experience that I don't have, and I like to learn from other people. So you have this interplay between PLSD, ASIC, and Pulse Bitcoin, which is coming out today in 12 minutes or so. Maybe we can, if we're still on here, we could actually pull it up and watch it live as it comes out. But where the first pool is created is probably going to help dictate the impact on the ASIC. So the ASIC, to me, in how I see things and the investing that I've done, is something that produces yield is more valuable to me than something like holding just something for fun, right? Like I don't, it's not, I enjoy yield more, and maybe that changes at some point in my life, but in like earning a yield is more valuable to me, right? Than like the cash flow type of thing that you hear about in legacy. Cash flow is something that's far more valuable to me than just like holding a token because there's a future potential for that. I agree with it. I agree that like as new users come in, independent
You also obtain cash different than the average human, probably. Like most people just go to their work, and like having mentors and miners and all that stuff probably helpful, but like you have the opportunity to like enhance your ROI, like because you're by your computer probably a lot and you're very focused on these things. And that really, I know it sucks, but that's not very rare case. I'm kind of the same way. Like I'm more on Sam's note. I can pay attention to everything, but that is not the place that most people are in as far as their availability and time.
All right. So where are we at right now? You've got Pulse Dogecoin, which for another 30 days, you can transform into 5 ASIC, right? 5 ASIC for 1 Pulse Doge. ASIC, the buy pressure on ASIC is going to be ridiculous. Why? Because everyone wants yield. Everyone wants the mining reward. And so, Sam, when you join 2 assets in a liquidity pool and one is going up due to that immense buy pressure, the other one's going up. PulseBitcoin is joined at the hip with ASIC, which is joined at the hip with Pulse Dogecoin. And then PulseBitcoin is joined with Pulse Dogecoin. Those 3 assets, not counting the NFT, right, which is also a token, but not counting the NFT, those 3 assets are all going to be moving in unison. And the buy pressure right now is extraordinary. I mean, we have 2.5 million ASICs coming through the ATM route that have been bought in this first 30-day period. That's a lot. And so what will people do with that? Well, if they can get their right number, they may sell the ASIC. If they don't get their right number, maybe they put the ASIC into the salt mines and they get Pulse Bitcoin. Either way, the buy pressure on ASIC is enormous. And it is the opportunity right now. Until Pulsechain comes out, this is the play. I mean, everyone was telling me, oh, Hedron going to go up 2x to 10x, because of the November 13th HSI auction thing. Well, what happened? The exact opposite. Didn't go anywhere. Now, did we make out like bandits on a yield? Hell yeah, we did, right? We crushed it, but we didn't get the price appreciation. And so ASIC right now, for all intents and purposes, should be pegged at $1 because of the backdoor with the NFT, right? The dollar valuation, and it hasn't gone down to $1. The buy pressure keeps on just pumping it up.
Because there's no way to close that loop. If there was a way to close that
tomorrow it's over forever. And then the transformation with Pulse Doge closes in 30 days. And then those 3 assets are subject to the whims of the free market. And you just watch. You guys have me back on this stream in 30 days, 40 days, and we'll sit here and giggle and laugh at all the arb trades that I'll identify for you that I made, as well as others, and what the market value is for these 3 tokens. Because Pulse Dogecoin has been held at that 5 for 1. If ASIC is $1 through the NFT, Pulse Doge by all rights ought to be $5, yet it's $5.75. Why? The buy pressure keeps on going up and up and up. ASIC, same thing. It ought to be $1. It's not. It's $1.15. It's the golden era right now.
It's interesting. Hey, we're going to dive more into it. We'll have you back on as soon as possible. You know what I'm saying? You're amped up. You're locked in. I mean, we don't want to promise any kind of prices or anything. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. Like, if there's a nuke in, China, I'm sure some things will change, about like people coming in. So guys, remember, this whole geopolitical situation is also a factor in all of our, like everything that we're doing. But again, decentralized crypto tends to be a safe haven for the most part. And that's what we're dealing with here. That's a big part of the use case, is that we are talking about immutable, trustless code, which is cool.
But the other thing is, like, I took a look at my IXA stakes. I was trying to figure out if I can yank them out. I'm locked in for 270 days, right? And then I take a look at my Hedron. I'm locked in for 270 days. Well, if I want to get out, I get crushed. Here in this ecosystem, you're locked in for 30. Anybody can endure a 30-day lockup. Where we all came from, it was a 10 to a 15-year lockup to get mid 30% yields. Here, we're talking 90% APY. So I don't want to overstate it. The free market's going to determine it, whatever the market price is, and no financial advice. But I am telling you, a synergistic multi-token ecosystem makes a lot of sense. It inevitably can generate higher price targets than a single token can.
I agree, because you can have people that are interested in one piece of it that are not in other pieces. And it's, allows your trees don't just grow like this. They have like branches, and
just the arbitrage plays. Here's what I've learned from you, Sam, you, GRC, Bullish. You know what? If the price is high, shave a little. If the price is low, buy a little. If the price is, kind of mediocre, you don't have to do anything. The do nothing alternative is always cool. But you'll have these literally 5 assets in the same ecosystem that are all designed to elevate each other in terms of price appreciation. You almost, I don't want to say you can't.
And as far as like new pairs, another thing to know when you're arbitraging is like when pairs are new, like there's like 5 or 6 pairs that have, $10,000-$20,000 in liquidity in it. Those numbers are all going to be wildly different for a few weeks. So like you can, even if you're doing the same product, you can arbitrage the price. We like to call that kimchi arbitrage around. Remember, because it's the same token, it's just a different exchange, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you see in the community in terms of growth of, are you tracking any data in the community? Like number of people on Telegram or something?
So we have 2,700 on Telegram right now. We started from 7 months ago. We have roughly 20,000 bag holders of these assets. We started from 0.
That's a combined number between PLSD and ASIC.
Correct. Yeah. And so we think over the next day or so, Sam, that a fair number of hexagons are going to come through the NFT path. Maybe even Hedronista will come in as well, snap up those NFTs, the ATMs, and either redeem them tomorrow or hold on to them for the future. So we like our odds. We really do.
That'll be interesting to see who sets up the first pool, because if, say, for example, say somebody who is not in the owner equity role of it, if they set up a role, I would set it up, just for my person, I would set it up at a very high rate so that I can dump my shit and then get into something else. Whereas if you're the owner of it, maybe you would like to set it up at a lower ratio so that you can be very low and show a positive trend on a price chart, because that creates a better story. You have any thoughts on the liquidity around that?
I think liquidity is going to be very thin, especially on the sell side. We don't want people selling these tokens. We really don't. So if you're going to endure the pain of trying to get out, I think the slippage should be significant. So I truly hope that it comes out really thin. Like I noticed the liquidity on ASIC today was only about $50,000. So all the guys that are thinking they're going to make their degen trades and arb between, an ASIC and an ASIC ATM, they may not be able to do it in big numbers. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because if someone comes in the NFT route with $100 million and they just want to flip the trade in a day, they're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to be able to get out. And so we don't want them crushing the community. But here's the beautiful thing. This is something I didn't mention the last time we were together. There was some discussion about this loophole of going through the NFT path. Well, every single dollar that gets put into an NFT gets sent to the benevolent address. who is presumably Hex Info. So no matter how many bad actors come in to try and bring a project to its knees, he always has more money than they do. Why? Because there are good actors like me that buy an NFT, and I don't have a dump on my mind. And so he'll have my money, he'll have their money, and anything they try and do, he can negate. So all the worry about, oh, well, you're pegging the price of ASIC at $1 and you know, that's going to hurt the price. No, it's not going to hurt the price. We're in good shape. We've got the benevolent address on our side. He's like a superhero. He's got this laser tracking mechanism, you know, just to zap the bad actors and take care of the good actors, much like the OA does for Hex, I might add.
So over the next 24 hours, roughly, the better, if somebody was like, hey, this sounds super cool. Hey, I've done my due diligence and I want to put money in there. The better thing to do from a value standpoint would actually be to get the NFT versus paying for the ASIC, because the ASIC you're going to pay, you know, $575 for, if you wanted 5 of them or something like that. You could buy 5 ASICs, or you could put $5 into the NFT and then tomorrow get 5 ASICs.
Right. Yeah, right now that's the preferred path. But at 12:30 tomorrow Eastern time, that path is evaporated. You can no longer get an NFT. So if you want to buy it and you want to arb between the dollar ASIC price contained in the NFT and whatever Uniswap has as its price, go right ahead. Doesn't matter.
Put in, like you were I think alluding to this earlier, but with PulseBitcoin, where, you know, somebody could take, you know, $10,000 and get 10,000 ASICs and then sell the price down tomorrow and make a 16% return in a day on their money, right? 16% on that. It's not on $10,000, not a ton of money, but in a less than 24-hour period of time, you know, that's a decent amount. But there's also probably, if there's, you know, a bunch of people who did the NFT, there's probably a bunch of other people who are going to be doing this very quickly to drive that price down.
Yeah, so traders are going to try and do that. I think the thin liquidity is probably going to dampen that down a little bit. Why am I excited about this? Because sitting in the Pulse main chat for over a year, sitting in this chat for the past 7 months, breadcrumbers have had their teeth knocked out by guys dumping on their head, and they haven't had a safe opportunity to actually have an honest to goodness shot at financial freedom. They've got it here. They can get into a business with no employees. I mean, you probably know this, right? No employees, no landlord, no data center. You know, to mine Bitcoin right now, it's a losing proposition. Like the hottest group of onboards that we've got right now are the small mom and pop Bitcoin miners that are losing money because of electricity costs and the cost of the ASIC miners. And so they're selling their mining rigs, buying ASIC tokens and putting it into the mines for PulseBitcoin. It's a beautiful thing. Tomorrow, I have a phone call. There's a Bitcoin conference, a mining conference down in Mexico somewhere. I'm going to be in front of a room full of miners that are dead broke. And I'm going to say, hey, guys, you want to be like Blockbuster and have done to them what Netflix did to them? You want to be like Kodak with what digital cameras did to Kodak and their film business? Because Bitcoin is on its way. You can't make money unless you're in this giant data center pool, and then you've got huge expenses. So we fancy mining because it's a perpetual money printer. And in many ways, it's similar to yield. I will agree, but it's different. It's different.
Why do you think it's different? Because I don't see it as different at all.
Well, it's different because, you know, there's no bigger pays better bonus, right? Yes, it does get measured in APY or a monthly yield, but the whole mechanism is a virtual representation of what Bitcoin has with the ASIC token or with the ASIC mining rigs. It is a virtualized representation of that. So if you understand how Bitcoin is mined, you immediately understand how ASIC mining tokens work and how PulseBitcoin works. So that is considered to be mining, not yield.
Is the narrative trying to be, say, more along the lines of not yield? Because if you think of, say, yield, there could be the perception that like, okay, well, you sell off the yield, right? And the sell off the yield means sell PulseBitcoin. So is that why people are trying to maybe change the narrative on that? Because if its perception is that it's yield, cool, I will take the yield, I will sell that and put it into something that I like, right? I'm still not understanding why people would want to bet PulseBitcoin personally, and that's why I'm like thinking that way.
Wait until price discovery, Sam. Wait until the Hulk green candle comes, or not. We don't know. No one has a crystal ball. But with respect to yield, that is traditionally paid in the same asset. If you take a look at Hex, right? Hex inflates and you get paid out in Hex. With Hedron, when you stake Hedron, you get what? You get ICOSA, right? And then you stake ICOSA and you get Hedron and ICOSA. So in this case, since we have such a hard cap on our ASICs, you can't pay out yield in ASIC. It's paid out in another token. That is PulseBitcoin. Now, yield comes into play in this if, in fact, you can stake your PulseBitcoin for Pulse Litecoin. We don't know how that's going to work yet. There has been rumor that you can stake that, and you can also take your ASIC and begin mining for Pulse Litecoin. Now,
Okay.
what's so cool about this whole thing is, what is Litecoin? Litecoin has 4x the supply of Bitcoin, which is 84 million tokens. Now, it's never had the financial success that Bitcoin has, but it has quicker halving periods, 84 million in supply. And I would dare say that it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for HexInfo to come out with very similar numbers, because he duplicated the Bitcoin halving periods exactly. He'll likely do it with Litecoin as well. So we'll see what that's all about.
Okay, because that could easily be the, Trojan horse, so to speak, where there's myopic view in the market, which tends to be the case, right? And I'm like, I don't see any point holding PulseBitcoin. And then the people who are paying attention to it could be like, okay, well, I believe that the actor behind this with Litecoin is, or Pulse Litecoin. I want to make sure that I'm using correct vernacular.
Pulse Litecoin.
Pulse Litecoin is going to come out where you could potentially use your, Pulse Bitcoin to mine or earn yield in that other token.
Yeah. And so take Motley Investor. Motley's like, oh, okay, there's like, a band of 1,000 tokens here. Which one's the dump token? At the end of the day, one of them has to be the one sold. And that's probably where you're going with it as well, right? One of them is going to be sold. And all I'm saying is that with scarcity, with the built-in scarcity throughout these core assets, that maybe you don't want to sell them all. Maybe what you really want to do is practice responsible selling and shave your position off when the bull market returns, right? The height of the bull after the next Bitcoin halving, which would by definition be about 2025. You shave on the way up. You shave at tips instead of buying dips anymore. But for the next 2 years, through this bear market and then sideways, generally trending up, you want to buy dips, not tips. Come 2025, you want to sell tips and extract money. A number of my Hexagon buddies didn't do that in August and September of last year. And now where are they? Instead of selling at 50 cents, they're selling at 3 cents. It's disgraceful. You don't want to be that guy. So I'm telling you, store of value is PulseBitcoin. It has improved on Bitcoin, which some say is the ultimate store of value. And so it takes all the negative externalities, choking Mother Nature out with mining, the hash rate, all that. I mean, it's a virtualized hash rate. It gets more difficult in time. That creates a funnel, a noose around the neck, and demand, assuming it stays constant to increasing, price goes up. Has to.
Yeah, I mean, it might be interesting. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I'm not trying to say
See where we're at. Do we have Pulse Bitcoin up yet?
I don't know. What site do we need to use?
On Deck Screener. What's the ticker symbol?
What are we trying to look at?
PLSB is in boy.
PLSB. Oh, no pairs yet on Deck Screener. Let me try again here. See, nothing up yet because it launched at noon.
Noon.
Okay, so it is 12:10 currently EST time. I expect that probably we'll see something shortly.
How about on Uniswap?
Let's see here. Let's go to info. Uniswap and see what we got here. It'd be interesting to see what it's actually at right now. PLSB. I think I'm gonna have to search for the contract address on Uniswap. It probably won't be able to pull it up if I use it.
I just gave it to you in private chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Bullish. Bullish on top of it. He's like, Sam's gonna need this shit. Let me just give that to him right now.
But either way, guys, I mean, we're gonna look at it, but it's just brand new. So we're just gonna be looking at the price discovery here on the chart. If we do get a chart up, I'm not sure if there is a chart. Jimrat Crypto 1225. That's what they say. Maybe it got pushed. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. They're talking in the chat. 20 minutes. And I don't know how all that shit I don't know how all that stuff works, but
this has been a common thing with all these launches. It doesn't launch exactly at the time. It usually takes about like 15 to 20 minutes for everything to go through.
And that's
Do we have any questions in chat? Let's line them up.
That would be a good idea, Mr. Pep. Here, I got a couple starred from way early on. Question: what's the best way to get in now? ATM or PLSD? A6 or just buy A6?
Well, it depends what your goal is. If you want absolute lowest price on ASIC, you go the NFT path. If you want to hold some Pulse Dogecoin, you can transform a portion of your bag, get 5 for 1. You're going to pay a little bit more for the ASIC that way. Probably $5 or $1.10, $1.15 that way. But it's not a bad way to go because you can then immediately put your ASIC into the salt mines. So,
what do you think is going to happen with PLSD? Because then on that side, there's not there's no like people. I understand people like meme coins, not something that I hold, but right, like what's the point of PLSD after this? You can trade these things in.
So it has everything that it had before, plus it has this transitory enhancement in terms of utility, where you're going to be able to trade 5 ASIC for 1 Pulse Dogecoin. The big difference is that our supply has gone from 6.1 million down to 3 million. And there's another 30 days of burning to go. So assuming we get down to 2 million, it is the rarest meme token of all. Scarcity is a real thing, especially when you have demand. Our ecosystem is on the precipice of creating price discovery. So we will very shortly know, hopefully today, what sort of returns we're looking at. And we're already running at a 600% ROI on Pulse Dogecoin in this bear market. Can only wait until the peg with ASIC, the dollar ASIC thing goes away by tomorrow. And Pulse Bitcoin has price discovery. So once all that happens, I mean, a meme token, what is it? It's easy to understand. It's likable. And people just buy them. They just buy them. RH has said similar things himself. They pump like, what? The thing is, we don't have inflation. Dogecoin, what's its supply? Like 400 billion. SHIB, 400 quadrillion. We'll have a 2 million supply. So it will be a boutique meme token.
What do you? There's several more questions, but one of the things that GRC has brought up that I agree with is like people don't really want to buy a partial amount of a meme token, right? So say the PLSD is $6, right, rough thereabouts, and let's assume that there's a increase in the demand of crypto, and some of that trickles into PLSD, so that you have a $16 or $36 price for PLSD. A lot of people don't want to buy something because I don't spend $36 to buy a token, right? In people's minds like that, because it's just a meme token, right? And the unit bias is a real thing.
Could be. We
I think
have.
that's yet to be seen, but that's what I think.
All right. Well, we have something
you
called
know,
a doji, right? Which you can buy dojis in time and break that number down. I mean, we go out 12 decimal places, so we're never going to run out of this thing. But the question is, what is the demand going to be for that token? And we think, based on what the performance has been in this bear market, and we're looking at 3 years of bull market, we think the demand's going to take care of itself.
I can agree with that. I mean, I can't agree with that point. Like, so far what I've seen, it's like no one person can really take PLSD out, whether they've tried already or not. It just doesn't seem like that's kind of how it's looking. And I think that it's a cool thing. I don't think we've really seen a meme token with like the scarcity aspect to it. And maybe that is one of the reasons that it won't pump, and maybe that is one of the reasons that it'll pump more than the other ones, you know? So it could be both or the other. I don't think I've seen it yet. And I think the whole like space is just like in the infancy. So like really speculating on a lot of these stuff is like, I think the whole dynamics of everything will change so dramatically. And it will just come down to who survives will have immutable code in some sort of community. Like those will be the guys that have survived the nuclear war, right? Like, but then when you come out of the other side of that, it's just ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous.
No one ever saw a black swan until they went to Australia. Everyone thought swans were white until they went to Australia. Swans were black. So, you know, who knows? Hey, Christian, how can you be guaranteed? No one's going to give you a guarantee, man. No one's got a crystal ball. But, you know, what are the clues to success? There is a residue of success. And that residue is that PulseBitcoin will also be deflationary. Why do we know that to be true? We know that because if someone doesn't end their mint 30 days after it matures, then they lose 100% of their PulseBitcoin reward. It gets burned forever, and they lose half their ASIC tokens. The guy who puts it into good accounting gets the other half. And so, yeah, and so all three tokens are deflationary. And so if we do our job as a community of buying, holding, staking, mining, and responsible selling, demand's not the issue.
So somebody who has 100 ASIC tokens that they've staked for 30 days, they don't take it out at the 60-day mark from T = 0, they lose all the Bitcoin, and they are left with 50.
No. On a 61st day, that mining instance is eligible to go into good accounting, which is a hex term, right? Only it works like this. The guy who initiates good accounting gets half the ASICs. The person that initiated the mine gets the other half of the ASICs, and 100% of the reward in PulseBitcoin gets burned.
So ASICs are not deflationary then?
Well, they are. So during the initial halvening period that we're in now, halvening period 0, there is a fee of 0.25%. So if you put 100 ASIC in, you would get 99.75 ASIC back at the end of the mine. And then in the next halvening period, it would be 1/8 of a point, and then 1/16 of a point, and on and on and on.
So at any time somebody stakes, they pay a tax or a fee, so to speak.
On the way out. Yeah.
On the way out after a 30-day stake.
Correct. When they end their stake, it's 1/4 of a point.
Okay.
So that ensures deflation. So we like our chances.
It's interesting. Question: is Gunther running away because he got the SEC subpoena? He deleted his Twitter before PulseBitcoin claim today.
That's a good question.
I want you to say the last 3 words, Sam. I don't get to hear you say that words very much. Say it.
That's pretty sus.
It's pretty sus.
Yeah, so Gunther hasn't gotten a subpoena. Uh, he's just being cautious, which everyone should be cautious. And subpoenas are going around. When the feds are nosing around, be cautious. So no, he hasn't.
Hey, you got your boy. If the feds come at your boy, you gonna hook me up or help me, or am I wrecked for life? I'm just joking. I'm totally joking. Like, no. I'm hoping I don't get right. I don't really know how that works. I've really never accepted money, so I don't know what they would want from me. And I'm not saying that other people did, but I have had I'm kind of new at this. Like, I've had no financial transfers of any sort. I just stream in the morning. So I don't know maybe if there's something that I'm missing or if I'm going to go to jail for the rest of my life.
I put a kill switch in place so that if a subpoena comes in the mail, I'm not going to tell you how I structure this kill switch, but it immediately burns all my keys. So I actually don't own any crypto. So just
I'm actually just wrecked, Platt.
Yeah, they don't want you. They want to squeeze you if you have dirt on El Jefe.
Oh, it's the dirt. I knew the feds. They just want the dirt.
They don't want you, man.
No, they don't want any of us. They just want dirt. If anyone did a transaction.
Yeah. So this is discovery.
Oh my God. Keep talking, my mans.
All right. So discovery is, hey, we don't know what we don't know. Let's take all the influencers who typically get paid to provide those services based on the other tokens. And let's see if this guy, Richard Hart, has done something wrong. And they're trying to build a case. Now, the thing about the SEC that few know, it's a civil action, which is why you always hear, oh, well, these crypto founders, they never get thrown in jail. They just have to pay a fine. Well, that's a civil action. Now, if there's criminal intent, like your boy down in Nassau, he's likely going to go to jail unless Hunter Biden.
But what if he's working with the feds and he just tells them every piece of information about everything that he could possibly come up with in his head? Because those little limp dick guys, they'll give up everything when everyone starts hating on them. So I'm worried, like, what do you think the SEC will do from this point on? Like, as far as with Ethereum, right? Like, we don't have to talk about the centralized exchanges so much. But with Ethereum, with Bitcoin, like, what do you think is possible? Worst case scenario, maybe. And what do you think is like the normal case scenario that'll probably occur? You've been going through this since, like, for come on, this stuff.
I've had an SEC subpoena before, and nothing's going to come out of this unless Richard's done something wrong. But hearing hexologists talk about taking Richard out to dinner in London with his family, and Richard gets up and leaves the table and sticks him with the bill. That guy's tight. He isn't paying anybody for anything. So I think he's clean as a whistle. Now, what is a concern? A concern would be if Gary Gensler wakes up one day on the wrong side of the bed and says, that guy, Richard Hart, he's the most hated man in crypto. Let's send him a cease and desist letter, which would then prevent the launch of Pulsechain. That would be concern number one for me. What would the second concern be? The second concern would be if some anonymous Chinese developer forks ETH 2.0 and gets out in front of Pulsechain, if they do it before the launch of Pulsechain, thereby diluting that value proposition. I think those are the two biggest concerns that I have as a hexagon.
Wow.
Very interesting. What are your thoughts? This is a good question here. And I'm curious, based on your experience here, what you think. Latin America, thank you for the question. What do you think of the velocity of money versus the store of value narrative for the crypto space? Seriously, wouldn't you rather have people using your currency on all networks rather than it not be? So velocity of money for people who are not sure is, think of like velocity as like, are people using it to pay for shit? Versus store value, are people buying assets to hold on to that shit for the future and they're not spending that? What are your thoughts on that?
So I tell you what I don't like about spending crypto, like for a cup of coffee or whatever. I come at it two ways. One is the tax treatment is so onerous that if you buy a cup of coffee with crypto, you have to record the cost basis of that crypto and then what you bought that coffee for with the crypto. And you then owe either short or long-term capital gains. So until the tax code changes, I don't want crypto to be used as a currency because it's not a currency. In fact, it's treated as a property. It is treated as property. And so I don't like that. And then I think if you use it as currency, what is that vendor going to do once you bought the cup of coffee? He's going to dump that token. That creates sell pressure. I don't like sell pressure because it tends to happen at market. No one tends to use a limit order above market or a liquidity pool with a range above market. They're all dumping it at market on the heads of the community members. Those are my two primary reasons for not wanting it to be a currency.
Well, on the currency side of things, like as a like he was saying, velocity of money, or as a use to pay for shit. I think that people who are investors, they want to hold shit that's going to go up in value. So if I want something to be a currency that people utilize to pay for things, independent of the tax stuff at this moment, I would want that to have like hyperinflation, meaning that like you're getting diluted over time, which gives a little bit of an incentive for people to actually spend that. Because if you have something where the value is just it's going to be a store of value, then people are not going to want to spend that currency to increase the velocity of money, right? More transactions going on in the marketplace. That's how, like, Joe Schmo is getting paid. I'm hiring him to help me on the house, right? And then Joe Schmo is going to go buy food at the grocery store, right? And moving that at a faster rate, I think have it almost like, and I don't know, but I think you'd want something that has like less upside potential with hyperinflation. Something like
it's just weird. It's just weird because it's like if everyone was using it, it wouldn't really matter because that's what everyone would have. And it's like, yeah, if it goes up 3x in a year, yeah, you spend $1 on whatever. So it is kind of confusing, like the metrics, how it would play out.
So here's an interesting play for us, Sam. Let's you and I meet at TIA. We'll fly down to El Salvador. We'll meet with Bukele. We'll get him to nominate PulseBitcoin as a currency, right? Along with his country's token or country's colony dollar, along with Bitcoin. We'll have PulseBitcoin, and we'll get that in use as an international currency. And then we can actually use it as a currency under international law, right? It is a currency. And then we'll challenge the SEC to make it a currency. And that way you don't have to pay taxes on the price appreciation.
Yes. We definitely need some more, like, guidelines from the IRS on that, because it's just not.
They force us to buy and hold. Like, they force you to buy and hold, and then they want to say, like, there's going to be some use case for it. It's like they force you to buy and hold so you can take the 30% of taxes at the end of the year, right? Like, you got to be able to pay your taxes. And if you're just spending crypto all the time, they don't have the proper accounting yet to really do it fluidly. And even if you did, eating 30% of the money that you've been putting in here is stupid, especially if you're working and getting 30% it out that way too. So it also depends on how you make your money and how much you already have in crypto. A lot of people have a boatload of money in crypto, and people will lie to you and say people dump thousands and thousands of US dollar into crypto when they already have millions of dollars in crypto. And I'm going to tell you that is a lie. And most of them just take a little bit of a position that they already have, and then they add it to something else or move it. If you have already so much within the system, it almost negates risk by not adding more centralized money in there. Plus, anyway, I don't know what the hell I'm even going on this spill about. I got to stop doing the show at some point.
Well, yeah, actually, I got to run in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I forgot
that. You have price discovery or not? What's going on?
Well, there's still
I don't see anything.
I looked. I don't see anything either. And I want everyone to check. Why don't we just do a thing? If you get that chart open and tag me and Sam and Pepe and post it all over Twitter. Simple as that, fam. Spread. If you really care about this stuff, you just attach my name to it and spread it all over the world. And then you know what? It helps both of us. So let's go. I mean, and this is the community that I started in crypto in. So people can say whatever they want. This is what I like. This is like, in my own personal time, I like to talk about what the guys in these decentralized immutable software staking, understanding people are doing with software. I think it's the future is here as far as the mines too. Like, I think the mines are here. There's not too many people in crypto but some said $10. Price discovery in 2 minutes, guys. We're just going to dump you. We're going to rug you. You're rugged. Get rugged. All right. But anyway, guys, check out the charts, post screenshots. Hey, Pepe, you could come on whenever you want. Just hit me up in the morning and you're good to go. So just
take care, guys.
Yeah.
And listen, you're doing good work. Don't let the haters just get to you, because they're going to hate everything. You know what? Here in the community we're all familiar with, there's glass half full guys. There's glass half empty guys. You know what? Let's fill our glass until it's overflowing. To hell with half full, half empty. Let's keep it going perpetually.
Yes, forever. Hey, this has been awesome, Pepe.
I couldn't agree anymore with that, guys. Pepe, Sam, have an amazing day. We got DeFi Proof running the show here, Crypto in the Morning live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you smash your like, hit the subscribe button, and we will see you tomorrow, guys. Have an amazing day. I might see you later today. You never know. Have a good one.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on pulse. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on pulse. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking a blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim Reddit sent me to show you the way.